Okay, welcome back in. I'm going to continue my series from worst to first, and now I'll be taking a look uh, in the AFC again. This time I'll be looking at the New England Patriots. So this past season they would finish with a 4-13 record, finishing fourth in the AFC East. They would finish third last in the AFC, and they would finish with the fourth worst record, which would be put them at what, 29, 32, 31, 30, the 29th worst team in the league. So they weren't the worst, but they were definitely up there. So we'll take a look at the team, their schedule, their stats, and then I'll look at the players, and then I'll give you my insight on how I think they will do moving forward. So yeah, finished fourth, like I said, in the AFC East last year. On offense, when it comes to passing yards, they would be the worst team in the league, finishing 32nd. They only had 2,995 passing yards. Receiving yards, because they had the fewest passing yards, it only makes sense that they would also finish 32nd in this category with 3,343. First downs, they were 31st in the league. They only had 67 first downs compared to Detroit's 136. Their rushing yards, they were 13th in the league, so at least they were in the top 15 rushing wise. They would finish with 1,969 yards. Points, they would finish 30th in the league. They had 289 total points to Detroit's 564. So now on defense, they would finish 32nd in the league in sacks. They had 28 compared to Denver's 63. Interceptions, they would finish 29th in the league. They had 7 picks compared to Minnesota's 24. Forced fumbles, they were 16th in the league, so they were right around the league middle. They had 14 forced fumbles compared to the Eagles' 22. The tackles, they also finished 16th in the league. They had 655 tackles to Indianapolis's 731. The special teams, so field goals made, they were 22nd in the league. They made 26 field goals. Their field goal percentage would be 25th in the league. They were 78.8, so they weren't terrific when it came to that category. Their extra points made, they were 29th in the league. They had 25. And their extra point percentage, they were 16th, which is 96.2. So I don't think it's a matter of them. I mean, if their extra point percentage was 96.2, that means they only would have missed a couple of extra points. But the only reason that they were 29th in the league with extra points made was because of that's how many that they kicked or it went through. So now we'll take a look at the players for the New England Patriots. Drake May, one of the rookies that were drafted in last year's class, would finish his rookie year with 2,276 passing yards. He had a 66.57 percentage with his completions. He had 15 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. So it's not the worst stats, but it's obviously not the best as well. I mean, he's a rookie. A lot of rookies are going to struggle, and I guarantee once they get a decent team around Drake May, that his numbers should improve, whether it's in his sophomore season or his third year. We'll see. Hunter Henry would finish with the most yards with 674. He had 2 touchdowns and 66 receptions. I said the yards, 674, yeah. Demario Douglas, the wide receiver, had the most receiving yards for a wide receiver. He had 621 receiving yards, 66 receptions, and 3 touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, would finish with 800 rushing yards, 207 attempts, and 7 touchdowns. And the other running back, Antonio Gibson, would finish with 538 yards, 120 attempts, and 1 touchdown. On the defensive side of things, Keon White would finish the year with 5 sacks. He had 31 tackles and 2 forced fumbles. Kyle Duggar would finish with 54 tackles. He had 1 sack and 1 forced fumble. Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback, would finish with 2 interceptions. He had 50 tackles and 11 pass deflections. Joey Sly, the kicker, would finish with 26 field goals out of 33 attempts for a 78.79 field goal percentage. And the punter, Bryce Barniger, would finish with 3,486 yards of kicking distance, 70 punts, and his average punt was about 49.8 yards. So for the New England Patriots, I'll just see if I can just have their logo on the screen. Um, Very tough season, and they're clearly still in a rebuild. They're obviously not going to be the same now that both Brady and Belichick have left town. Brady obviously left back in 2020. Belichick last coached last season, so in the 2023-24 year, he took this past season off. So they're definitely in the new era of Patriots football, and unfortunately, it's going to be a struggle for a number of years. Yes, Drake May is a very good quarterback, and he should, like I said, he should develop with the right coaching and the right players around him. He can make he can be a better quarterback, and he should be able to lead New England to more than 4 wins, I'd say, next year. But um, I just think it's still going to be tough in that division. One other side note before I make a bold early prediction was that Mayo, their coach, just did 1 year, and then even though they won their last game of the season, he got fired, I think, the next day. Mike Vrabel is basically one of many New England legends. He used to play for the Patriots back in the, I want to say, late 90s, early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, or at least in the 2000s, that time there. He did spend some time coaching the Tennessee Titans before getting let go 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. He took this past season off, and now he was welcomed back with warm arms from obviously Robert Kraft, the guy who bought the team back in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a nice reunion to say the least, but I mean, everyone thought that Gerard Mayo, that's who it was, Gerard Mayo, that's what it is, their old coach, that he also was on the defensive side of the thing. Also, he was an assistant to Belichick before taking over the head coaching duties once Belichick was let go last year. So for some players, it can help that you were familiar with the team and all that other stuff, but it can also bite you in the rear because I thought that Gerard Mayo should have gotten at least 1 more year to help develop the players that he had, but unfortunately, Robert Kraft and company, they saw it differently. So I believe Mike Vrabel can bring a different style of coaching to this team. He's very, I'm not saying Gerard Mayo isn't tough or aggressive, but if you've ever seen any videos of Mike Vrabel getting his players pumped up, and he's even been on the sideline where he'll have a defensive player in front of him, and they're doing like hand gestures and movement, try to get by around him. So basically, he was basically practicing being a player as a coach. Um, so I think he'll definitely help this Patriots team perform a little bit better. I think going into next year, they should definitely finish with more than 4 wins. I think that's not too much of a stretch. Maybe 6 wins, 7 maybe, but I still think they'll finish below 500. When you think about the teams in the AFC East, you got the Bills. They're still dominant, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won the division yet again. After that, though, you got a couple of question marks. Like the Dolphins, they're good, and they just missed out on the playoffs by a game or two, so they're still competitive. Tua, as long as Tua can stay healthy, they're a good team. Now, the big question for the Dolphins moving forward is going to be what's the scoop with Tyreek Hill? There's speculation about him wanting out of Miami, whether he just wasn't happy with how the team performed or whether it's with money. I don't know what the deal is, but I know he wasn't too thrilled after they were officially eliminated and their last game or second last game, but their second last game of the season. No, their last game of the season. Sorry. So for the Dolphins, I never would have thought that they'd be in like the maybe category when it comes to a contender or not, because I don't know what the scoop is with Hill. He's their best wide receiver. He's their best deep threat. No disrespect to the other wide receivers or running backs or tight ends on the team, but when you think of the Miami Dolphins, if you don't think about Tua, you think about Tyreek. So if he ends up leaving, that could put the Dolphins in jeopardy of being a competitive team. And then the Jets are just a dumpster fire. I don't know what their scoop is. So for the Patriots, you got to look at this and say, if the Jets don't make too much of a splash in the offseason, or if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, or whatever it is, the Patriots could jump up to third in that AFC East. Again, depending on how the Jets play next year and all the other stuff. I'm not going to say they're going to make a huge jump and get into second because I still think the Dolphins are a better team than New England. But yeah, outside of Buffalo, there's really no threat in the AFC East. So again, I think the Patriots should do better. Like I said, if they can get to 6 wins or 7 wins, I think that'd be an improvement. And then we'll see how they do after that. But there's no way they can finish any worse than they did this past year. Alrighty, I think that's going to take care of my recap and review for the New England Patriots for the 2024-25 campaign. As always, if you're new to this channel and you like this type of content, feel free to hit the sub button. I'd be very grateful and very appreciative. Until next time, and as always, take care.